Hello and welcome back to Warframe. My name's Todd, also known as Magi Mech, and this is of course Warframe. So, previously we left ourselves in Cetus, and we were going to talk about the vendors that were there.
Operator, Ordis wonders, what are you thinking about?
And some of the functions that they have, plus do our first bounty. However, upon logging in, I noticed that we had our first alert. Now, typically, when you're this early in the game, you won't get many alerts, but the first few you get will probably be extremely important. This first one in particular, I'm going to go over. So when you go into navigation, you can check out your quests that you're doing, the next objective, and for me right now it's Venus Junction, but you can also find alerts under this little exclamation mark. Alerts are kind of like mini quests or objectives, and they tend to give, pretty good rewards. There's some that you have to particularly be looking out for when you're playing Warframe, and the main ones being ones that reward things like specialty resources, like that you'll find later in the game. I'll go over those as they kind of appear. This one that it just appeared is very critical for any Warframe player who's seen it before. It's an Orokin Catalyst, which allows you to expand the mod capacity of weapons, and it is effectively doubling the mod capacity, meaning that this little blue, what most people refer to as potatoes, are very important. For now, it's just a blueprint, and we probably won't even be able to craft it, and we won't even be able to, or we won't even really want to use it right away, but we're going to definitely do it. It'll also expose us to a mission type that we haven't really explored that much, so let's go do it. There was also just recently a new update which added some sound during the loading screens, the music, that is. You can probably hear it now in the background. So I figured I'd let that play at least once. So this new mission type is what they refer to as extraction. Pretty sure I went over...
An artifact has been located. Proceed to the dig site.
One similar to this. It's very similar to defense. And effectively, what you do is you go to the objective, and you'll be defending an objective, but this objective's a little bit different. Thankfully for any mission that has Orokin Catalyst, or some of the other specialty rewards that are very important, you typically can't, be out-leveled by those. Most of the time they'll be very low level. Here, let's get going before we get overwhelmed. So for this one, you'll see a orange circle, which will drop down an excavator.
Excavator deployed. Protect the unit while it extracts the artifact.
And just as Lotus said, we've got to protect it. It's got a health bar, same as defense. You can stand on top of it, which can sometimes be useful, but your main objective is to make sure that it doesn't get destroyed. But it also has a power level.
The excavator has run out of power. Find a cell.
Which will be dropped by the power cell carriers, and they'll have like little green objectives. Forgive me if I talk a little bit quickly here. We've got to deal with all these guys all at once. But when you pick up those power cells, which are carried by these Grenier power carriers, it'll allow you to refill your extractors, which, as you notice, have little timers on them, and those timers dictate that if only I had enough energy to put out more shields. Those little timers will
The
dictate
scanner has picked up a target. Go to the dig site.
how long the extractor will need before it finishes. However, the time is frozen when you don't have any power in the unit. Let's see if we can't power it up fully. Yeah, there we go, we're getting there. It's very critical that you kind of get as much power as you can, as fast as you're able to. And as you load in the power cells, it also gives your extractor its shields back, which is pretty useful for keeping it alive. But right now we got to worry about keeping ourselves alive. It should be noted that while carrying any object similar to your shield, such as a power cell or something in that category, you'll only be able to use your secondary and your melee weapon, so bring a good secondary if you ever plan on doing extractions. These guys are mostly chumps, though. I say as I get owned by it. Okay, so when it completes, it explodes. You'd think that that would be bad, but truthfully it's good. Make sure you pick up any power cells that are left and head on to the next one. So it should be also noted that you get cryotic from extractions. It's the only place you can get the resource known as cryotic, and it's used for a good couple things, but not extremely useful. There's some specific items that use it, but there are definitely not that many of them. You won't be farming too many extractions. Or, freaking excavations. The big thing in these is definitely having a good frame that allows for good defense.
Excavator is ready to go. Keep it powered and protected from enemy fire. An artifact has been located. Proceed to the dig site.
So as you go along, this mission is effectively infinite. You can keep going for pretty much ever, getting extractors. And the extractors, when they die, they don't necessarily, you don't necessarily lose too much. You lose the reward that you would have gotten from the extractor. As you saw when the previous one completed, I got 100 cryotic. Depending on how far the extractor is along, you'll only get so much cryotic. And you really won't get good rewards if you let them get destroyed. But, you know, sometimes your own survival is more important. These Kubros, oh.
Excavator destroyed.
That's unfortunate.
Protect the remaining dig sites.
So those Kubros are really messing with me on this one around, and I'm really bad dogs. Really bad dogs. Boy. Oh dear, let's not die here. Okay. Our lack of mods and whatnot are really contributing to making this more difficult than it should be. And yes, you can throw kunai one-handed, though it looks very awkward. These alerts, thankfully, only require that you
Excavator is ready to go. Keep it powered and protected from enemy fire.
get a certain amount of
The scanner has
cryotic.
picked up a target. Go to the dig site.
And that cryotic does add up even if you fail to get it, so we can kind of just power through this if we're not good enough for it. Which may come into play later. I'm hoping it won't as much, though. Hopefully we can get our shield and maybe not die as much. There we go. We are getting a good amount of energy from these guys, so as long as we're focusing our shield in the right direction, we might be okay here. Make sure you stay away from those shield guys, because they will try and run at you and knock you over, which is pretty devastating. Truthfully, I think my major shortcoming here with that last one was those Kubros that were just taking up all my shots.
The excavator has lost power. Find another cell.
I am also running low on power, which is not great. I could definitely use some more. The more power you have, of course, the more shields, and it's way easier. But truthfully, Volt is not the best frame for excavation. There are much better frames that will get later on, which will be much more suited to dealing with this sort of mission. But we're doing alright. Bullets, bullet holes, and a lack of health withstanding. We're gonna make it through this. So as you can kind of note, every time you bring an excavator down, the next one kind of gets a waypoint, and if you have a team that's pretty adept at these, you could have about 2 to 3 excavators running at the same time, which makes this much, much quicker. But a Spire Lonesome can only really protect one of these. It does look really cool when one of those comes down. I'd admit, like a good old orbital drop just to get a digging machine.
Picked up a target. Go to the dig site.
Fully charged, the next guy who comes around is going to get a terrifying arrow to the face. Or the next few guys, that is. I think my bow is actually doing a fair bit more damage than kunai. Those little latchers are not doing me any favors, though.
We need another power cell for the excavator.
I would love it if there was a carrier around, but I don't see one. I gotta make sure that that heavy gunner doesn't get over here. Oh boy. Oh, Scorch got over here. That's not great. There's a power carrier. If I could aim. I'm hoping not to lose this one. Oh, come on. Ow. Come on. Bring it. Ow. Okay, okay, don't bring it. Please. Please don't bring it. Anything but bringing it. Oh, dear. There's one too many things here. Maybe I should have brought some friends. We'll be okay. As long as that Scorch would get out of here. Dang guy, he just keeps coming back. Oh boy. There we go. That was a good one. If I could line up my headshots, there we are. I might be able to just save this one yet. Yes. When picking up these power cells, they can be very janky. Oh yeah. Oh, an achievement for, I assume, killing 100 people? Is that a... oh dear, that's a bombard. Bombards are explosive-wielding Grineer and very dangerous. Every time you get hit by their weapon there, their rocket launcher, you take a massive amount of damage and get knocked over. Very dangerous enemies.
Excavator deployed. Protect the unit while it extracts the artifact.
Heavens, we're seeing many enemies that we've never seen before.
An artifact has been located.
Bombards,
Proceed
Scorches.
to the dig site.
Hopefully we can keep up with all of this and not have an unfortunate accident. Haven't had to show off the revive function yet, and I'm hoping not to in this round. So Scorches, of course, are just Grineer with flamethrowers instead of their basic assault rifles, which honestly I think might be making them a little bit weaker than the normal enemies. Bombards are rocket launching enemies, which are very dangerous. They have a large amount of health. And, oh, there's one around. Oh, that's the revive function. Alright. So, when you die in Warframe, you have the option to revive upwards of 5 times, and it costs Affinity, which is your experience.
For the excavator.
Hopefully we can prevent our death here, and prevent that... oh, an extremist enemy. This has gotten very difficult for survival here. I think we're going to lose that excavator, but that's alright. Ow, ow, ow.
Excavator destroyed.
As long as we
Protect
don't
the
die
remaining dig sites.
5 times, that is. Gotta dodge those bombard shots. Which home? Oh. Let's just leave. Leaving sounds pretty good right about now. There is an extremist enemy down there, though. Oh, dear. Let's see if we can't shock him a little bit. Cause some issues. There's also ballistas, which they're effectively... or I think it's ballistas anyway. I think it is. They're the sniper enemy of the Grineer. They do a large amount of damage. And that was the Arson Extremis, which caused that large fire explosion, which knocked me over and did a pretty good amount of damage. Hopefully Now, because they're bombards, we do have a bit of an issue with them and our shield. Even if we throw out our shield, it's not massively effective because of the explosion radius, unless we stand really far back. Oh, I might have just dealt with them. I think we're going to have to hurry up a little bit. We are getting very quickly outpaced. Considering there was 2 bombards over there, I think we need to speed up, and we might have to brute force our way and use a couple excavators to get through here. Boy.
An artifact has been located. Proceed to the dig site.
This is what I get for calling this mission easy. It's just a nightmare.
Excavator is ready to go. Keep it powered and protected from enemy fire.
Now, where are you? There you are. Heavy gunners. I'm not sure if we've seen them yet. Effectively, they're just heavy machine gun
The
enemies.
excavator has run out of power.
And they do a
Find
very
the cell.
large amount of damage if they can get up on top of you. Like that. So it's very critical that you deal with heavy gunners as fast as you can. Or stun them, in this case. In the future, missions like this will be much easier if we can mod ourselves better. Oh dear. Death again. Alright, one more time. So when reviving, every enemy around you will be knocked down, and that is important for survival. As if you're in a terrible situation, they didn't want you to just die right away again. It's gonna... Oh, we knocked them off the edge. Perfect. Let's put up a shield, hopefully, and...
Excavator
Oh.
destroyed. Protect the remaining dig sites.
Alright. I was hoping that the revive function wouldn't have to be shown off this early, but this mission has proved much more difficult than previously anticipated for a low level.
The scanner has picked
From here
up
on
a
out,
target.
the best
Go
way to
the
deal
dig
with this
site.
would be to just drop down the excavators and no longer worry about whether or not they can
Excavator deployed.
survive.
Protect the unit while it extracts the artifact.
Just ensuring that we ourselves survive is the main objective now.
The excavator has
It
lost
should also be
power.
known that
Find another cell.
when the heavy gunners do that attack, where they slam the ground, oh boy, that can definitely knock you down and cause massive problems. Hopefully we can get this. Oh dear, nope. Those heavy gunners are just destroying us. Alright, we really have to prioritize surviving now. Even fighting
Excavator
enemies
has
is
lost power.
probably a
Find
bad
another
idea.
cell.
So we are going to just get those excavators down on the ground and not
Excavator
even
destroyed.
worry about it now.
Protect the remaining dig sites.
It's a bit cheesy, but at this point, we don't have many options. The enemies have very quickly outpaced us, and they're pretty much destroying us in a matter of seconds.
Excavator is ready to go. Keep it powered and protected from enemy fire.
It should be noted that
An artifact has been located.
if a new
Proceed
player
to the
decides
dig
to do one
site.
of these missions, it would be much more advisable to go into public and do this with some friends. But, of course I have to challenge myself. I gotta show off that it's possible, right? So hopefully, yes, we did get some bow ammo. And hopefully, so with these guys, in a timely fashion. Should be noted that our bow does do more damage to... Oh dear, there's a bombard. Gotta get out of here and away from him.
Excavator
All right.
destroyed. Protect the remaining dig sites.
As it should be noted, that 2,500 health of the excavator just disappeared in a matter of seconds because of the number of enemies. Our piddly amount of about
The
400
scanner has
health
picked
and
up a target.
shields
Go to the dig site.
really doesn't last long.
Excavator is ready to go. Keep it powered and protected from enemy fire.
So I think I'm mostly just going to hide away, let them destroy this excavator, and get my Karada and go.
The excavator has run out of power. Find a cell.
That bombard has just caused me way too many problems. Oh dear. You know, usually I'm not much of a quitter, but when it comes to survival, it's better to leave the mission successfully than worry about letting some excavators get destroyed. That bombard really does not like me. I guess since I'm
Excavator
here,
destroyed. Protect the remaining dig sites.
I can make a note
Extraction is now available.
that, of course, we did get our cryotic and we're able to leave, but as time goes on, enemy level doesn't matter as much because of weapons doing about the same damage that they would otherwise. So, thankfully, even though the enemies here are very quickly outpacing us, as we go along and mod our weapons and improve the damage, we will be able to take those enemies out regardless of what our health is like. So, even though it was through some fire and some flames, we definitely were able to bring ourselves back from the dead and get our Auric and Catalyst blueprint. So, with that, we will be able to upgrade one of our weapons in the future. So I can kind of show that off. So, we don't have the items needed to build it at this current time because some of these items come from areas we haven't quite unlocked. But when we are able to build it, we will be able to come over here to our weapons and upgrade our weapons.
Well put together, operator. Now get out there and
Cut down the...
make the Lotus proud.
Through either the tutorial or through actions here. You can learn more about this. You can auto-install your mods, which for the beginning of the game, if you really don't understand how the mods work, that's pretty useful. But the Auric and Catalyst we just got doubles our mod capacity, which means we can install twice as many, mods, or twice as many draining capacity mods, that is. And we can also do some other things, which we'll kind of get into later with polarization and swapping polarities. The polarities are dictated right here by the little dash. For now, let's just auto-install, because we only really have one mod at the moment. And only have one mod there as well. And let's see, what about our Skana? We have a couple mods here. Don't have enough to put in. Oh, we do have a pressure point. So pressure point is your basic damage mod, and damage mods you pretty much always want to install on your weapons. Pressure point's probably one of the best ones to get early on though, because you'll pretty much use that throughout the game. And what about our frame? Okay, well, we can throw on redirection. It's not much, but
I've been thinking, operator.
60 shields will have to do for now.
I thought you'd want to know.
There are some other things you can do in your arsenal, which I haven't shown off, but we'll get to those later. For now, let's head over to Cetus and explain more about the vendors that are there. And we'll kind of close off there before doing our first bounty. I do think when it comes to Warframe, one of the big things that a lot of new players probably won't know right away is that this game gets updated quite a lot, and they're constantly adding new things, which really do improve the quality of life in the game. Oh, a little bit of slowdown there. It does happen every now and then that you'll get some slowdown during loading frames, such as cutscenes and things like that. But now that we're back at Cetus, I can talk about some of the other vendors. So, I already talked about the Fisher Pilot here, and
Different fish need different bait.
the major thing
And
that I did
Fisher
want to make sure to
Hillock
state
your
is
one-stop shop.
once you start getting reputations,
Swazdula, stranger.
reputation, you'll be able to buy your fishing spear, which will allow you to get, get fishing started. There are some other things with bait and dye, but we'll go into that more when we actually have the
I should have
reputation to
been
deal
a
with it.
plumber.
You also have our good buddy Old Man Sumbat over here.
Sumbat. If you want to draw wells from the cliff face, then I've got what you need to do it, eh? Mining tools, scanning gear, huh? That kind of stuff.
And as he stated, you have mining tools and scanning gear. The no-sam cutter will be your mining tool in the plains. You'll be able to buy that later, and that should pretty much be the first thing you buy. You also have some blueprints to be able to cut some gems or create some ore from the stuff that you mine. As you go up in reputation, of course, you'll be able to unlock new things that allow you to craft new stuff.
Who belongs in? I'm not running a social club.
The special is the same as the Fisher, which you'll be able to buy resources with plat. Usually this is not worth it. Buying resources in Warframe is kind of takes the fun out of it unless you really don't want to farm. And then of course you can trade in gems for reputation and standing. Now, it's a good idea if you have an excess supply of them. Otherwise, it's good to keep them because of one of the other vendors. So, I will get to these other two vendors here in just a second, but I wanted to talk next about Hawk.
Aha! You desire this all weapons Hawk is so famous for. Allow Hawk, I am Hawk, to sell you blueprints for weapon parts. Forge them in your foundry and then return here so that Hawk may construct a fine weapon for you.
So Hawk, as he states, constructs weapons, which in Warframe are referred to as Zaws. So Zaws are composed of strikes, grips, and links. We don't have any currently. I'm not going to go into extreme detail about this until that sort of thing can be built. Same with the other vendors. You can buy Zaw parts from him, which you need one Zaw grip, which would be something like the Quaith or the Sakala. It actually states when you open it up that it's a grip and what it needs to do, what it needs to build it, and when you buy the blueprint. And you can of course look at the links, which pretty self-explanatory, and then you have the blades or the strikes and see what those are. Now there's tons and tons of guides out there for building Zaws and the different parts that you can use. They just recently updated and added a couple more. I might do a video on that later. For now it's kind of out of our reach, so we're not
So
really
you've
worried
just
about
wasted
it.
my time is what your face is telling me.
A little bit. Today's
Big
special
special today. Hawk knows you're interested.
allows you to buy a Zaw that's already been built. Typically it's a pretty good Zaw, but overall you can build your own, and your own will be more customizable and have, more features tailored towards you, so I really don't suggest it. Other services are you can guild a Zaw, which effectively enhances a Zaw, making it better. The stats overall get a buff, and it allows you to name it. You can donate Zaws that you previously built, which are at max rank or gilded, for standing, or you can entitle one for 15 plat, which effectively just allows you to rename it. Now, the other two vendors will be Master Tizanai here.
Ah, yes. I am able to groom your animal. What is your desire?
And he sells pet customization kits, which these kind of give you colors and patterns for pets that we really don't have yet, or a decoration for your ship. His wares will change, as the message that just popped up stated. Right now we don't really have any resources to give him, so we can't really buy any of those. Mind you, he doesn't allow you to buy pets, just the customization for said pets. And lastly, we have, if I can find her, here she is. Nakak.
Others have one price for locals and one for off-worlders. Me? I give you the local price every time.
So Nakak will sell flares in the beginning of the game. She will sell more as the game progresses, and she also sells some specialty wares for some events. So if you're questioning where something comes from, and you know it comes from the Plains of Eidolon, it probably comes from Nakak at some point in the game.
When you've made peace with the world, then everything becomes a game, friend. This place will teach you that. Free advice with or without purchase, Sura.
I almost forgot.
I'm here to help.
These flares only increase your infinity range, which is only useful if you're in a group with others, and it effectively just means that your shared affinity between the group members will be shared over a longer distance. Not exceptionally useful, most people don't bother.
Those urns outside doors, don't drink from them. They're Jungbat. Need to stay away.
So, now completing that alert, talking more about the vendors, and we'll go into more detail as we kind of deal with them and talk with them. We'll probably start our next bounty, or we'll probably start our first, I should say, bounty with Konzu in the next episode. But for now, I think that kind of covers the vendors at the very least, and talks a little bit about the alerts that happen in the game.
Off-worlder, help push the Gornier away from Cetus.
I suppose
do a good deed,
for this episode, the biggest piece of advice I could probably give would be don't accept a mission if you think it's too big for you, or bring some friends. Change it over to public and get some people in there to help you. It might help you out in the long run. For now, goodbye though.